Yes, indeed. Good evening, Lagos. Once again, you're back to Smooth Drive. And when it's 7 o'clock like this, you know what we do at this hour. It is drive time discussions. And you can always reach us on all social media platforms in case you want to join the conversation. You can send us a WhatsApp message, 009 444 0981. We are also on Facebook at facebook.com/smooth981. On Twitter at smooth981fm, hashtag is drive time discussion. So let's get to the conversation this evening.
Okay.
We're talking about workplace abuse. How did this come about? So I did say I was not going to tell this story because I'm going to let Mazino tell it.
Whoa.
Yes.
Don't surprise me like
I'm
this.
not surprising
what
you. You know that
telling?
story. The story I said I was not going to mention,
Which
and
one?
you
I
said
can't
you were going to
remember.
say it.
Oh yeah, that place.
That place. And the social media fallout.
Do we have to now?
No, well,
We
maybe
will,
not
in the
now.
course of the show, we will.
But I just want to reference the fact that,
Okay.
you know, this is something that has been talked about and is still being talked about. How that, you know, at some point, I think that when people get pushed to the wall,
They will bite.
Yes, they start to react, they start to bite. Now, it's not too much to ask, right? To work in a place where you feel like you're valued, where you work in a place where you feel like, you know, you're appreciated, where you feel like there's ethics in leadership. But for a lot of people working in the Nigerian corporate space and, you know, even in non-corporate spaces, they will tell you that, man, such a place is really, really rare to find. And so we want to ask you this evening, have you ever felt undervalued, underappreciated, bullied, abused in the workplace by either your employers or even the people that you work with? It could be your juniors, it could be your senior colleagues. What are some of your worst workplace experiences? We wanted to share your stories, and this evening we will discuss this with a guest. She is a broadcast journalist, and she is someone who has experienced several workplaces, and she can give us, you know, some insight into how.
You say that like a bad thing.
No, not at all. It just means she has experience.
It's only Nelly. Don't worry.
Bullied along the way, of course.
Her name is Nelly Kalu, and
Oh, me God.
I think that the first time I really like paid attention to, you know, this whole issue of being bullied at work was, you know, when I saw her go through certain things. I'm like, okay, you know,
You guys have history together.
yeah, we do. She actually
Oh, I
articulated it in a way that I hadn't heard it being articulated before, and so she's here and we're having this conversation together. So feel free to join us.
009-444-0981 is where to send in the WhatsApp messages to. Once again, that's 009-444-0981. We've got this up on our social media page. This would be Twitter. By the way, who's running things here on Twitter? Who put up this caricature of a boss whipping the...
That's me.
That's just... It could only be you, but it's funny. Check it out.
But really, this
Yeah, well,
yeah, it can happen.
I don't know about that.
I heard of a particular makeup place. Okay, she doesn't whip the staff, but if they are late, they kneel down.
Really?
Full-grown adult women kneel down.
Hope it's not the place I'm learning how to make nails at.
Oh no, I don't think they
'Cause
do
I'm doing
nails.
that. You know the place? Oh, you're okay.
No, I don't think they do nails. They do just facials.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, and they're really popular.
So it's up on Twitter.
Yeah.
We're also streaming live on Facebook as well, so catch us on there. You know how. Let's get this conversation on the road. Nelly, good to have you here.
Thank you.
You know, it's been a while. I've been hoping we'll share the mic together. This is that time.
Yes.
This is it.
To think of it, this is actually a time
Yes,
we're
this
sharing
is
the
it.
mic
This is
together.
it.
That's so true.
So while you guys bond over your mic sharing,
We're not bonding over nothing. Just good to see her
Yeah,
here.
you know, here I am after experiencing so many workplaces, being
Exactly.
bullied along the way, and properly articulating that experience. I am here in Smooth FM. Fala, I can't even remember what I said to properly articulate my experience.
I really want this articulation to be expressed here,
I totally
please.
remember.
I feel like I have to dig. You have to say what it is because
No.
it probably bullied my memory out of me.
But let's ask, what's your experience been like when it comes to workplace bullying, or at least, well, many people say, I hate going to work. I think that's part of it, because after you suffer such abuse time and time again, it's just like a natural trauma to waking up
You're
in the morning. I
traumatized.
felt that before, but thankfully it wasn't when I was working on radio.
Okay.
I actually enjoy working, or I don't think I've had a bad day. Many people have a different story, I know, but I've never had an absolutely bad day working on radio in what, 15 years. But in
Outside
corporate-
of radio.
outside of radio is really tough. I used to really cringe
Hmm.
when it came morning time going to work, and the ageism that went on, there's so much. I can't
But
whip
do you
out the
think someone
vocabulary
else
right.
might have had a very bad day working on radio because of you?
Well, there have been those instances where people would clash and stuff like that. So I wouldn't put it absolutely. I wouldn't say it's
You wouldn't
absolutely
rule it out.
Exactly, I wouldn't rule it
Mm.
out. Yeah.
Because for me, I think that's where it begins, when we separate ourselves from the workplace culture. So
Okay.
we think somebody else is causing all of our problems, but in reality, we're also part of the system, the machinery causing all of these problems as well.
Hmm.
And bullying has a lot to do with power, everybody knows that, but also with hierarchy.
Mhm.
And you never know it, but if you've been bullied when you were at the bottom rung of the
Of the ladder.
totem pole,
It becomes
you know,
normal for
as
you.
you it becomes ingrained in you.
Hmm.
You never consciously know it or even admit it, but as you rise, you start to become a bully to everybody else. And you know what they say about the bullied becomes the bully.
Bully.
It's
because-
kind of like boarding school.
It's kind of like boarding school,
It
and
is
I
boarding
attended one where all those things were in full glare.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you're talking about it in hindsight, but it's really the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have been bullied, you
Hmm.
in return become a bully to others, and that's why that continues in Nigeria. And I also think, for me, having worked in, for me mostly media, having worked in media where I experienced it the most, because when I wasn't in media I didn't experience it actually.
Yeah.
But what I realize is people think as a rite of passage certain attitudes and characters have to continue because it makes you a tougher broadcaster or it makes you a better broadcaster. But along the line, it's no longer about that. It just simply becomes about a culture of behavior. In Nigeria, as a people, we respect and appreciate, as that might not be the right way to say it, but we respect and appreciate authority being, an oppressive kind of authority.
Because we're raised that way.
We were
I
raised
think what
raised
you're
that
looking for
way.
is that we're conditioned.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
we're conditioned. I think that is the thing. And the conditioning causes us to, I don't know, revere it, So you expect a certain kind of treatment from someone who is more powerful than you, who is in senior authority or places, than you are. And it doesn't matter who you think maybe has an edge over you. So it doesn't really matter what they do, So let me come to radio, where I have experienced this. I think for me, it started at first with the person who really taught me what it meant to be a disciplined broadcaster
Yeah.
was a bully.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And
Is he listening?
no,
Mhm.
but if he was, he would recognize, because this is not something I'm saying behind. I told him that to his face.
His face. Okay.
Yes. Now, I started radio in CTFM, and that was before CTFM became this CTFM, the very first set of CTFM. Mazino knows that. So, in that situation, he's no longer there. It's a whole long history way before. And in that situation, he believed in training us the same way we should be trained, training us the same way we should be trained, training us in a way that we should become stronger, and tougher for whatever the things were. And this involved, badging into studios, hitting the desk, banging at doors, and all kinds. And so instead of actually getting better as a young broadcaster starting off in life, you're more afraid
You're
Traumatized.
scared.
and traumatized. You're more afraid of upsetting him than the lesson he's teaching. And I will give him this credit. After a while, he wondered why we weren't taking in the lesson. And if you are lucky to be in a place where there's someone who's bullying you, this bully might not be aware that they're bullies. You're lucky when you have a buffer, and we did have a buffer between us and him. Another person too, another boss who was a buffer. I think at a point when he couldn't figure out why we weren't learning, he decided to have this one-on-one talk. By that time, I had been seriously bullied, seriously traumatized. I don't know what I'm doing right or wrongly. It was just, I was exposed to it all. You hear him coming, you shake so badly. You're on air. You're not saying anything that makes sense to you. You're saying what you think will make sense to him.
Yeah.
He became your one and only audience. And that happens to a lot of broadcasters. That person you're afraid of becomes your one and only audience.
Hold that thought, Nelly. We do need to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue, and then we'll also take some of your experiences if you're listening to us. 0809 444 0981. Even if you're not in the broadcast space, feel free to share with us some of your stories from the corporate world. We'll be right back.
Conversation that needs to be had And I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Well, let's also address, just segueing into that, let's also address the fact that many times signing a contract or signing a letter that says you're now going to work with an institution in Nigeria means signing your soul away.
Slavery.
And let me also say, not just Nigeria. This is, I would say now from experience, it's an Africa-wide thing.
Yeah.
So it's a version, a kind of slavery, almost like an indentured servitude that you have no control over. And it's not on paper. It is just a culture. And as you were saying, let's spread this from the time management. It's almost as if the 8 to 5 you sign does not exist, or 8 to 4. And whenever I need you, so long as I pay you salary, I'll call
You
up.
must be available.
But then you don't even pay salaries.
And they still expect you to
And
be
then you
available.
still want to be
Exactly. So I'm doing you a favor. There are a million people out there who need jobs. You should be lucky that I employed you. You should be lucky that I have you here. Yeah, I'm saving the money for you. Whenever I pay you, I pay you. It's not like you never get paid. Has the year ever ended without your salary complete? And
You would make a good Nigerian boss.
I know, right? I have all I have it all on paper.
You sound just right.
When you hear it a lot, you get used to it. And at this point, you are in such a fix because it's really not like jobs are out there, and you're not paid.
And they know this.
You're not paid so often, so you can never really gain a skill outside whatever you came into that employment with. So you're not trained at work. You're not paid salary to be trained yourself. You're constantly in debt, so you can't leave what has become a safety net that is so full of holes. And it becomes a weird mind game that keeps you in a system that doesn't do you any good. When that system is done with you, it spits you out and you're back in the streets, no good to any other employer and no good to yourself.
Wow.
So we underestimate what workplace pressure and
Abuse.
name whatever you want to call it, but it keeps us ruined for our families, for ourselves, and to be honest, for the economy of the country in which we're working.
Wow. Okay, Prince is saying hello.
Hello,
This
Prince.
is Nelly in the studio, still the same Nelly. Man, I have missed her. Okay, I edited it. He actually said, I have missed this intelligent being. Anyway, let's talk about time management. So, I remember tweeting this. I made a tweet that went viral sometime early last year. People who work 9 to 5 would be very familiar with this.
What's 9 to 5?
8 to
9
5.
oh 8 to 5, sorry. Nigeria 8 to 5.
Just
So
make
it's
this-
5 p.m.
making
It's
sure
your
everything is
closing
clear.
time, right? It's 5 p.m. You're supposed to
Yeah.
close at 5. Your contract says 5 o'clock is your closing time. And then your boss comes to the office at 4:45.
How dare you leave before him?
And then you are there.
Dare you?
And you cannot leave because boss is still in the office. Or you pack your bags to go at 5 and then you keep getting the stink eye. Like you're not serious. You don't know what you're doing
And this boss has no concept of remote work, right?
at all.
So beating Lagos traffic, getting home
It's
in
not
good
his
time
business.
to do whatever the rest of that assignment is not something he
He
factors.
can't.
We had an
Yeah.
argument lately. We said productivity will increase if you actually shorten work hours in Lagos.
High five.
This one country
Yes.
do it.
You-
I think we had one of
You
these
will
countries.
have increased productivity because the amount of time that we spend in traffic,
traffic.
leaves you all used up by the time you get to work.
And really
Thank
standard
you.
work hours. Who really works from 8 o'clock?
Nobody.
Well, I don't.
Nobody.
Sorry, no, I didn't say that on air. What I meant was,
Yeah, well, finish that statement. Seriously, there's so many of this little things that we have taken for granted, and we don't know that it is in some way abusive. Because if you have to wake up in the morning terrified or depressed that you're going to work, then something wrong is happening there. Let's take some of these messages. They're coming in really fast.
pouring in, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of them just want to say, hi, Nelly.
She does
Hi,
this, and this is
Celine, I
the
miss her.
Nelly to you, and we sound the COVID. Oh.
Good evening,
Thank you.
good evening, Fola and Mazino.
They
I'm the guest.
Excuse me, my name is Fola, not Hawa.
It's not Hawa, it's
Hawa
Fola.
is not around.
She owns the show now. I don't. I'm just,
Thank
I
you.
come in when.
Please
I
clarify
need it.
that.
It says, I'm Nathaniel from Kodu. We just had a shake up in my office. The new
Yeah.
GM is a always looking for a loophole in all my work just because he feels I have been here for too long. Chinese, you know, I think
Chinese?
Chinaman come and go,
Chinaman
and I
come
have
and go.
been here. That's my only wrongdoing.
Aw.
Hi Nelly, I enjoyed your tutelage at that place. No brand names. Who is this? Hi, good
Alex
evening.
from Aja.
Alex. He says, my own story is a bomb. Your opinion don't count where I'm working. It's a bully zone. So tell us about it. You didn't leave much for us. Are you still writing that text? Alex from Aja. Let's know. He says it's 8 to 6 p.m. by the way.
And that's true. We really don't think about it, but a lot of employees don't close at 5.
No, we don't resume at 8 anyway. We are out of the house by 5
By
a.m.
5,
You
to
woke up
beat
at
traffic.
4 a.m. to get ready to leave the house at 5 a.m. You beat traffic. You get to work at 6:30 or 7 just so that you're not in traffic all that while. So that means you have an hour of wasted time. You actually get to your desk at 8 o'clock after spending that 1 hour in your car trying to catch up on sleep that you couldn't
That
get.
you missed.
Work starts, you're already used up, not enough sleep and everything. By 6 o'clock you're done. You have to face like 3 hours of traffic back again.
And so you get home like 10 p.m.
Your kids
I
think
mean,
you're armed
So
robbers
can we
during
just
the
mention
weekend.
the word burnout?
Burnout is the word.
Yeah.
Because employers never understand how that affects your bottom line superbly.
Yeah.
When an employee is burnt out, there is nothing you're saying that makes any sense. There is nothing. They can only
They can't
function.
even come up with ideas.
They cannot come up. The ideas you probably won't take, but they can't even come up with it in the first place. Now they're burnt out, and understand that I learned something easily. There's nothing as good as being a boss in Nigeria. It is so wonderful because now you have a driver. Probably, if you're lucky to be a boss in the right place, probably have a nice car. So you sleep through that 3 hours traffic.
Because you're not the one driving the car.
You would sleep, and then you sleep again in the morning. And then you come when you want. And if you're really tired, if you are the one burned out, you just pack your laptop and you're like, this will happen in my house, and I'll let my minions do it. It's nice when you write it on paper, but if you're employing people to be an asset to your your company or whatever business you're into, then it is very important that your human asset. Now let's take a look at Nigeria, where our real economic bottom line are human beings.
True.
And they're all, look at Lagos. How many millions of people exhausted every day?
You see them in traffic.
And these human beings are supposed to be an asset.
Yeah.
How low is that?
Which brings me to the question of contracts, Mazino.
Yes, what's it?
Everybody
The way you
signs.
faced me, I don't know. You're scaring me now. It's like I'm on the hot seat.
We all signed contracts.
Yes,
Everybody signed.
I'm a HR.
Calm down.
I have to be up.
Imagine it's like how very soon these women will drag me to this business. I worked hard for this.
You should calm down.
All right, okay.
So yes, contracts. Sometimes it feels like people. The last place I worked that I got a gigantic contract, I think it was about 30 or 40 pages. Remember, we got the same thing. It was this huge document,
Which they know you'll never read.
I read every single thing. You know me. I read all my contracts.
She's that girl you don't want to be in the
So-
same class with. She always makes us look bad. She ended up reading the entire thing, even things we didn't know that were in there.
Okay.
So you have people who give you contracts that have all these hidden clauses, and then even the clauses that you know that, okay, this is good, at the end of the day, they don't follow. There's a breach. There's always a breach of that contract.
Have you ever had a boss who goes up to HR to read your contract to be sure that what you're arguing about is not
really
good?
Well, so Amaria here says, please don't mention my...
Oh dear, that's not her name. Or
No,
his name.
I'm not gonna read this again. I'm sorry, I can't read
but
it
is
again.
it juicy?
It's supposed to be
Yeah, we're going to move on and read something else.
0809 444 0981.
There's a message on Twitter.
Okay, let's read that one.
Yes, let's.
If
Read.
it's not a hail out to Nelly,
No, why are you bothered?
because there they are again. The Nelly's people are here.
Okay, so Dolani Roberts says it's really quite awful to deal with a workplace bully. It's something I can't fathom because I just am not that person. And like anything, I'm worried about making it worse. It's a horrible situation to be in. Thankfully, my company has an excellent HR department to take that sort of thing very seriously. It's one of these people who'd be shocked if they were told how their behavior affected others. It's a horrible situation to be in. Okay, it's the same thing that he's writing.
Okay.
All right.
We got more coming in.
Yes. The bullying thing is that you sign 8 to 6 p.m. They will still keep you till 7 just for work that can be finished the following day.
I do want to read this one. This one just came in.
Okay. This one says there is right there is one of the issues we have to address. There are jobs out there. There really are, but we have to change our mindset. First, employment should not be abuse of my self-esteem.
Yep.
It is not only on one-man business, but even multinationals like ours. Toxic Nigerian bosses frustrate your life, especially when you're like me, who leave at 5 without looking at your face. I resigned a job after years of toxicity and being unappreciated. God just gave me a job which pays more than that, like 4 times over.
Sure.
And no, I have no godfather. Going into work for the past years had me palpitating and dying gradually. Resigning was a trump card.
The effect on your health has to be
Oh my
discussed
goodness.
as well.
I developed high blood pressure somewhere.
I had an instance where there was nothing to fall back on, but the relief alone was golden. And I took it. I'm like, you know what? You'll always find a way. So yeah, there's that as well.
All right, we'll go on another break. When we come back, we'll take more messages, and we'll still, of course, take some of your stories. Remember, you can WhatsApp us at 009 444 0981. Nelly Kalu is in the studio with us. Azina and I are having a wonderful time on Drive Time Discussions. Right, we're still on Drive Time Discussions right here on Smooth 98.1, and we're talking workplace abuse and all the different things that face the Nigerian working person. So many stories have been shared this evening, and we're still taking more, so feel free to share some of your stories. We're asking you if you have ever been abused in the workplace, if you've ever been abused by either an employer or a fellow employee. What are some of your worst workplace experiences? Did you resign out of frustration? Did you run away? Some people ghost their employers, like when they've had enough, they just ghost. I know someone who did that. Like one day he just stopped coming to work, stopped picking everybody's phone calls. And at the end of the day, when he was ready to talk, he said, you know what, I've had it. I'm just done. And I think that's one thing that, some of these abusive employers or organizations used to hold a lot of people, because the fear of leaving, like, okay, so what next? Where do I go to? So they know that, and that's why they keep, threatening you and saying things like, there are other people out there who are looking for work, so you're dispensable at the end of the day.
I've never liked ghosting in any form, whether it's relationships or otherwise. But work is relationships. So you have to, I've always said, you're upset with how this business is going, you're upset with how our relationship is going, say it and let's end it. So every time I have had a workplace issue, I have had to speak to my superiors. It's never easy. Sometimes I spend nights after nights just replaying that in my head. I'm cleaning the house on a Saturday and I'm speaking to my broom like it's a broom that's a person. I'm working through this. And I earlier shared the bully boss I had. I told him to his face when he asked me why my performance was, and I said, you're a bully. He was shocked by it and asked me how, and I told him. In a way, I did him a favor because he had to change his method. And then we actually started learning. Now, a boss who is hard is not necessarily a bully. There are certain attitudes, and attributes that make you one. But the fear of never leaving is the one thing. I said this once to my brother when he was having a tough time at work, and I said, people never see that the one thing you have power over is where you work. I chose to accept this job, and I can choose to refuse the job. We never know it, but it's true. The one place you're powerful is where you work. Because you can decide, I am done and I want to go. So maybe to empower yourself, becomes more valuable than clocking in every day. And many times as employees, we never think of empowering ourselves. You need to learn something. You need to empower yourself. You need to make yourself valuable. Now, you might never be valuable to the people you're with while you're learning, because sometimes in work environments, they never like to recognize growth. Because for life, I employed you when you could only read your ABCs, and before leaving, you can work algebra. Then at that time, I'm now thinking, I have to pay you algebra money.
Yeah.
No. So I will constantly make you feel like your skills never improved beyond the ABC. So that I never have to pay you algebra money. And you sit
it's
there.
a mind game.
It's a mind game. So get the algebra skills. Learn to do more. If your job entails more languages, learn them, no matter how, even if it breaks you. Because when you have to leave them, you're leaving that place with languages, the algebra and everything. And a new place will see you as that.
Yeah.
Not the way they did. Remember we talked about this once, I don't know if you were there once back in the day, about salary cap.
Yeah.
And how sometimes employers never increase your salary, and that devalues you when you get a new job.
Yeah.
Because when people ask you, what did you last earn? It's not a sincere question. Because if my employer never increased my salary in 5 years, then I was earning what I came in as a rookie, now 5 years after, when I've learned to hold so many other skills on the job.
Exactly.
So you devalue me, and it affects my future. So we have to start that negotiation on a totally different platform, on a totally clear space that says, I am not the person that I once was. You know, so it's really a mind game that keeps us hungry and just keeps us undervalued, which is worse than working for someone who abuses you, who doesn't pay you. I think it's what for me kills me is that I leave that place not knowing my worth.
This is really deep. Abayomi Babawale on Facebook says workplace abuse on the average is like a norm in Nigeria's work setup, especially when you work with the so-called one-man business owners who have little or no structure that guides their business. And they take so much advantage of many graduates' inability to secure or swap jobs. When you talk down, abuse your staff as an employer, it demoralizes the workers, especially when the mistake made could have been corrected without being harsh. It's a long way to freedom. You know, this devaluation that you just talked about, I think it's one of the major reasons why it's really hard to move from one level to another. Because every time you try to move, it feels like, and I think at some point, maybe we should stop asking that question. Maybe HR professionals should stop asking that question. They need to have that conversation to stop asking, what did you last earn? Because in a way, it always somehow devalues the staff. I think that when it comes to deciding what you want to pay someone or a prospective employee, you need to look at their competences.
Yeah.
You need to look at where they are in their career, what is their experience, what have they done.
The question should be, what do you want to earn, as opposed to what did you last earn? Yeah. Because I'm already coming to you because I no longer want anything in the former place. Yeah. So that alone is progress. Asking me a question that takes me behind. Yeah. And
I think it's even abuse. Deliberately paying someone what they last earned. Yes. That means you don't see any growth. You don't acknowledge any growth.
And those are signs as well, taking the job. But we cannot separate this from the fact that Nigerians, we don't feel like we have redress in the law, in the labor laws. I have had a situation where labor laws have been quoted back to me when I'm fighting for how I should be treated, and told it technically favors the institution and not the individual, you know? So what is a redress? And probably we need lawyers to educate us on that. Yeah. What is a redress for a person who needs to say, I don't want to lose my job. I like the job I do. I like where I do it. I just want to be treated better. I just want to be valued better. Does that mean when everywhere is silent, in the next 4 years they fire me, or 2 years, or 1 year I'm fired? Who knows?
How do you avoid being called a troublemaker?
Yes.
For speaking up for your rights as an employee? Anyway, so so many messages. Let me apologize in advance if we're not able to take all your messages this evening. So this lady here, no name, no location, says, hi people, trust you're all doing great. So surprised no one has mentioned banks. Bullying lives in banks. George from Ajah says, please, what are your social media handles? You're just talking to me. Once Twitter at Smooth981FM, on Instagram at Smooth981, Facebook Smooth981. You can talk to Nelly on her social media at Nelly Laoni. Please spell it Nellylaoni. Yeah. Yeah.
Specialist.
I don't know. Bukola here says, hi guys, I know that beauty studio where they kneel down. Oh,
Hey.
I'm not going to mention their name, but you are right. You are very, very right. Anyway, back to topic. I hope the bosses are listening. My first proper work experience was in 2012, and it was the worst experience I ever had. I was a youth corps member and the least of the technical staff. My boss was verbally abusive. I dreaded weekdays. It drained me, and life back then was gloomy. One example was once when she called me back to work only to diss me and then tell me I could leave. My offense, I left for home at 5:20 p.m. and she saw me as I was about to get into the car. The driver came to pick me and she headed to the office at 5:20. She told me to go home after I dismissed the driver and asked him not to wait. Wow. After much thought, I made a decision I would not spend one more day in that office after NYC was over. She couldn't believe it. Yeah, they never could believe it. All right, so Funke here says, hi, excuse me, I'm in HR. You can ask what I last earned. I believe I have skills that can command what I ask. That's the way to negotiate. All right, thank you, Funke from HR.
But how many people have such strong negotiating powers?
How many people know how to negotiate what they earn? Most times people come into interviews with fear.
Yeah.
So you're worried, oh, I don't want to ask too much. I don't want to ask too little.
And you're afraid because you don't want to go back to the other thing you're running away from.
Yeah.
So a job search or a new job, an interview is not to access better. It's just to get away from that hell.
Yeah.
So you can't lose this one because
Because
you don't want to go back there. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Dubem says, good evening. A very big and well-known company in this Nigeria decided to fire all the married women in the company. My wife was affected. And as you can tell, because the owner is very influential, every effort is being frustrated in court. I think I remember that company you're talking about. If I'm correct, it's a telecom company. Sad, sad, sad. All right, just before we come back on the last lap of the show, we do need to take our final commercial break on Drive Time Discussions. Keep your messages coming in. 009-444-0981. We've been talking to Nelly Kalu on workplace abuse. This conversation will definitely continue after the show, so feel free to go on our Facebook page and drop your thoughts, or you can just go on the Twitter thread and drop your comments.
Reading this one here. This is now I have to check whether they say don't read my name before I start reading. MBO says, hello. Talk of lazy slave drivers, sexual harassment, and hypocritical executives. Come to the bank. Imagine a boss not contributing to the team's work for over a year and bashing the team for performance, and nothing good ever comes out from him. So the bank seems to be a big culprit here.
Apparently. I want us to, on this final lap, talk about, this, what we call scapegoatism.
What is scapegoatism?
Where one person, stands up to speak up for their rights as an employee.
Don't do it.
And, or puts their foot down or demands, to be treated fairly. And the person ends up being the one to bear the brunt of,
takes the axe.
Yeah, taking the axe. And then most especially, I think it's the lack of support from fellow, from work colleagues.
How is this supposed to work now? I'm supposed to stand up for everybody, and then everybody also stands up and says, yes, we don't like this treatment. And then the boss is supposed to bend. However, somebody, after you've all agreed that we're going to all stand up and say yes.
There's a snitch.
Someone inside there.
Inside
the person,
yeah.
Sounds very familiar, but...
And then again, I think the worst is not the snitch. There will always be a snitch. I mean, go snitch away. But it's when you finally stand, people who said to the last minute they were going to stand with you seem even more pained than you. Just sit there. It's just like, imagine the picture. You're standing and they're all still sitting and you're looking like
why am I the only one?
Judas with multiple... I don't know. I can't think about ever standing up as a scapegoat for anyone, but I know I'm that person. I have that personality. Yes, let's do it. But I'm learning every day. If I have a problem, I'm going to walk into that room and address my problem.
Your problem, exactly.
Now, if everyone... I remember having that situation not too long ago where I had an opportunity to address my problem. That's because I took a stand for myself. And the question was, yeah, but why didn't you tell them that we are all doing this? Now, I mean, we're all suffering this.
Didn't tell them about the last story.
And at that moment, no, it has nothing to do. At this time, it's me discussing it. It doesn't sound romantic, and I know movies will not be shot about that kind of a story, but what's the point?
I've never been one to think that was actually the best way or route to take. Like, hey, let's all go together. If you have grievances with your boss, I believe it should be between you and them, because who's to say that the guy who's talking to you right now, that yes, I'm going to be with you, is going to stand up with you?
With you,
don't
I think
so.
that sometimes you might not consciously have to drag people and say, "Oh, let's all go together." But if one person speaks up, the decision that that is taken might end up affecting everybody positively.
That is
it might
true.
change the precedent.
It's true on paper.
Yes.
I mean, we've watched movies, songs have been written about those kind of things, but
But the reality,
yeah.
We got more stories here. Fola and Nelly, people
Yeah.
shouting out to you guys. Your former fans are shouting out
Oh, thank
to you. I used to
you.
listen to you guys together, they say. Really miss you guys. And Nelly, they want to know where to find you. On radio? No. Maybe we'll bring
Really?
her back on here. No, on radio, as in.
which-
Nelly's moved on to TV. Am I correct?
You can see her face.
Yeah, so she's all dolled up right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's moved on to better things, to say the least.
Radio isn't a great thing.
Radio is amazing. Please.
Okay.
I should stab you.
I love
Good
radio.
evening.
Radio is the bestest thing.
I
I'm
agree
telling
with you,
you.
actually.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
evening. This is Dubem. Yes, it's a telecoms company on the side of banks. There is absolutely nothing professional about Nigerian banks.
Wow, everybody doesn't love the band.
Hi, Philomazina and Nelly. Oh, my time in the bank. Eyes were open, man. Severely, mentally, if that grammar is correct. If that grammar is correct. Slavery mentality. Okay. Sorry. It's embedded in the system of this part of the world, he says.
Sad, sad.
Me again. I'm not with my glasses full up. Please, I apologize. I've been really
And
rubbish.
Gubemi says, unfortunately, Nigerian employees don't realize how much power they have. People always accept all kinds of bad behavior from bosses till it becomes a norm in the company. What's the worst that can happen if you resist bad behavior? You get fired. If you have a solid case, you go to industrial court and present your case. And how do you have a solid case? You make sure all your evidence is clearly documented. Many people attest to the fairness of rulings of that court, and surprise, many times they rule in favor of the employees. Things will change overnight, but they will definitely change.
Keep
Yeah,
trying.
Thank you for
on
that
that particular
information, actually.
issue, I wanted to say that the industrial courts would have been the best option, because I have seen at least two separate occasions where it has worked for people, but not in a broadcast space. People in corporate sector, they're there. And then the Office of the Public Defender, Denny Keja, you can easily go and file.
Isn't it amazing
you
that
know.
we work in a broadcast space where we should broadcast these things, and we never use those tools to our own
For
good?
our own.
But anyway,
Yeah.
thank you very much for mentioning it, because anyone who needs it, the problem now is the documentation.
Yes.
We take it's so easy,
Mm-hmm.
it creeps up on you, so you're not documenting your
And that's
mental
why-
decay until it's actually
in your
the
face.
end.
And I think that's why a lot of
Yeah.
people are reluctant. People know about the industrial court. They know they can pursue these cases. But they don't want to, because when they start to ask you the nitty-gritty questions, how do you put emotional abuse on paper?
You see, this is because we're not a litigious society. First of all, we don't even
True.
know how to start documenting these
Documenting
things.
things,
It's not the
yeah.
first thing that comes to your mind when you have these issues at work. First off, I blame most of us, because when you have certain issues at work, the one thing that people do is, instead of going about it the proper way, in this case maybe documenting, it becomes little talks or
Yeah.
that just
complaints,
complaints
side talks here and
that
there.
mean practically nothing at
Nothing.
the end of the day. So
Put it on
if you-
paper.
if you
Are people
wanted
still
to-
ashamed of being fired?
ashamed of being fired?
Oh, there
I
used
think
to
it
be a
is a big
time.
fear still.
Still?
People don't want that.
I don't know
You're
about
so
shame.
ashamed
I don't
to
know
say
about
you're
shame.
fired
I don't
too.
know about shame, but I know there's fear.
What about
Yes.
what happened in your last job? Sir, I was fired.
No, I left. No. I chose to leave.
I just
I chose to leave, but
Then if you
Yeah.
dig deeper, you hear, I heard they were going to, so I just
Yeah.
resigned. I'm like what's this?
story.
okay, yeah, well.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, it's unfortunate that we do have to wrap things up
Oh, we're
now. Yeah, it's 51, bro.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
So,
Mazina,
so many.
so-
you
Mazina
will
is so
come
sad.
back, won't you? That's sarcasm.
Oh, of course I'll come back. You know what happens when a person leaves radio? You know, radio bites you
We're
like a
gonna
bug.
put Nelly on
So
the
any
podcast
chance
with radio.
anybody gets to
To
get
get
on
back
radio,
on.
you
To
can
get
quickly run to it.
I know the reference you made to spitting you out, a profession spitting you out and everything. It's not restricted to this or that. The truth is, I was actually not with you guys while you were talking about this. If you don't develop yourself, that's what's going to happen to you when you're in any profession. So you must find something that you can fall back on. It could even be a craft. Just make sure there's something you can fall back on, because if the profession spits you out,
It's like I think it's my worst nightmare to find myself one day I'm 50 years old and
you're a veteran of nothing.
A veteran of nothing. They'll say, "Oh,
but
she
then
used to be on radio."
A profession never really spits you out. It's a job that spits you out.
Okay, yeah.
So you need you need to better yourself so that you're worthy of that profession anywhere else. Yeah.
Word.
Right, that's it. What a team we make.
I know, right?
This was fun. Thank you.
Me? I'm only here for today. What you mean? Please, I'm done.
The responsibility of saying smart things.
No, I'm done. I'm all right. One dose of Nelly is enough.
Come on.
Imagine we have Nelly in the studio the day we have Kiki.
Oh
dear.
I would be the very quiet person because there would be nothing for me to say. These two, they would have taken care of it all.
Alright guys, we'll see you here again tomorrow on the Smooth Drive and definitely Direct Time Discussion. Like I said earlier, the conversation continues on all social media platforms. So go ahead and drop your comments and we'll definitely be engaging with you on there. Thank you so much, Nelly, for
Thank you for
it.
having me. Thank you so much. I had a really great time.
Yeah, me too.
And I geeked out without being ashamed.
I know. Good night, guys.